Hello and welcome to Rauta's Underground Show. Once again, we have 3 different albums, but this time I'm not gonna say they are 3 different styles or 3 different parts of the world, because in fact, 2 of them are from Sweden, 1 of them is from Norway. They're all black metal, and they are even from the same label, Purity Through Fire. Because some of these covers are pretty unpronounceable, and because I'm not too familiar with these respective titles, so that I could remember them easily. They're not English or Finnish. I'm just gonna read them on the screen here in case you're wondering what the hell I'm doing. So first we have here, I guess I should explain them in right order. So for example, first we have here Daudadagr and Nordanland. Curious enough, when I put this band title on Google Translate, it gave me Hindi, which means this would be a runner. Now, I don't think this is the meaning of the band, but already made me smile a little bit. Runner from Sweden. So, Nordanland, which I guess translates pretty much like land from the north, northern lands. So, Swedish black metal. Then we have Gnipahålan Folkstorm. Now, I didn't translate this particular one. This is from also Sweden, and related actually Daudadagr and Folkstorm. Well, that is pretty much sounding funny already, coming if you translate it to English. And then you have Hjemsøkt, which according to Google translates from Norway to Finland, English, means, well, actually I translated to from Norway to Norwegian to Finnish, not English, and it said kummitus, which would be a ghost or a specter of sorts. And the full album title is vinteren på en trone. Vinteren means winter, so it's about winter and stuff from Norway, respectively. So let's go these according to my own opinion from worst to best. So like I said, all three bands are black metal from the Nordic countries. More so, they're all side project of one another. Well, sort of. So let's put them in the order I feel is honest, according to my own opinion, from the worst to best. None of these are exactly pro-sounding black metal with good production and all that stuff, where in fact it's quite the contrary. We're talking about some kind of underground releases here, goes with the label and all, but also these are more or less quite demo sounding. So in case you're wondering, like, hey, what is this all about? We are talking about demo rehearsal place kind of albums here. Technically speaking, this first one from Daudadagr, Nordanland, is a demo which never made, as with this band, beyond full albums. Already a few years old. This is a side project that for one reason or another didn't go much beyond this demo and the previous one. And as such, the result is very, very simplistic packaging. No song titles beyond 1 through what it was, 8. And very simplistic look also on the CD and the whole thing here. However, there is a thin booklet showcasing, or once again, showing you a little bit of Nordic landscape, some liner notes right there, and then a band picture. So one-man project, and when I say project, I literally mean it, because technically speaking, this person in the band has so many other bands. I was counting more than 20 different bands. And what makes this more curious is not that there are mostly black metal ones. So it's more like one guy having about, say, 20 or something different black metal bands. Meaning, I'm thinking of other Swedish people like Rogga Johansson, who has like 30 different plus of death metal bands. So maybe there is something in Sweden that you need to have all those side projects going, different places and it's sounding somewhat same. So this is one of those projects, and this is a demo level stuff. Like I said, nothing beyond these 2 demos, and this is now on full album. As a end result, this is very, very organic sounding, kind of a typical demo sounding release, meaning it's somewhere between super raw and very highly produced albums, good badass studio production. So it's more like a rehearsal room take. Not super bad, but it's already like we're figuring out what to do somewhat, or this guy is trying to figure it out. And the black metal is pretty basic second wave black metal. There are riffs where it's like, okay, I'm getting the vibe. It's Nordic black metal, and you have some nice ideas, mostly around mid-tempo. Nothing is too aggressive, nothing is exactly atmospheric, but it's kind of a work in progress release in so many ways. So it's definitely taking the benefit of sounding rather old school, organic, and all that stuff, meaning there is nothing really too polished, too honed. But when it comes to songwriting, that also applies there, meaning there are no fancy guitar works, no technical parts, nothing is exactly atmospheric, nothing is too violent, nothing is super raw, nothing is too fast. It's just like in the middle of the road kind of a thing. So very, very much like work in progress, really. And while I would like to describe it in a lot of words, there's nothing really kind of a mind-blowing, nothing really memorable as such. It's just one of those black metal releases you've probably heard thousands by now. I mean, I don't assume that anybody who found black metal yesterday is just jumping to this particular Underground Trio episode and figuring out, I don't know anything about black metal. Oh, let's start with this one. So, unless you're a total newbie to black metal, you probably heard this many, many times and done so much better. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with this kind of black metal. It's just one of those demo recordings you're probably not going to touch unless you're already a fan of the given artist with its other band, which takes us to this Gnipahålan, which is one of the same bands by the very same guy, but now with an added lineup. Now, this is a band that has been out there for quite some time. There are quite a few releases, and this particular one is one of those sounding quite organic with its mid-tempo black metal. Lots of similarities with that, but this lasts for more than 70 minutes, or 73 minutes of Nordic black metal with a rather lo-fi production, meaning drums, guitars, nothing exactly sounds strong. Even the vocals are so much on the background that without the reverb effect, you would probably not even hear them. So you're like figuring out, okay, nice screams here and there, but nothing is really like attacking you with full force. It's almost like holding back blows with these ideas. So sure, some riffs are more like, let's do some kind of atmospheric black metal, but then it's nothing really like full of that. It's not really like, hey, let's do another Burzum copy. And as you can see, very, very minimal booklet, hardly songs listed, and no pictures of the band, nothing but very simplistic background image. And this pretty much describes the music very same ways as that other band, meaning there are lots of songs, and some of them are even 10 minutes, past 10 minutes mark, around 13 or so. And there are these lo-fi ideas like, okay, let's do these basic riffs and add a lot of them one after another, and let's make it more than 70 minutes in total, resulting that you have a handful of good riffs and a lot of mediocrity, a lot of filler parts. So the kind of a basic black metal starting point. In essence, it sounds very, very demo-ish. And while there is nothing wrong with such lo-fi production, especially if it really, kind of boosts the music or supports it. Thinking about like Clandestine Blaze, it's nothing super raw, but it's kind of getting the homebrew feeling, meaning it's nothing that you could get out of, total badass big production studio setting. More like, okay, I'm gonna just mic these drums myself and let's do the very simplistic, basic, somewhat borderline necro sound black metal setting, and let's do it. This is more like, I don't have the equipment, I don't have the skill, but I'm just gonna do something. And then you record it, resulting in a somewhat weaker guitar. I wouldn't bitch about the guitar sound, but it's definitely taking a lot of power out of this, what the power really could be. There are lots of riffs which they need a punch, but it's almost like girly slapping instead of giving punch. And when I want raw black metal, I want it to sound super raw, like inhuman. Think about the golden era of Darkthrone, the early albums. They were necro as hell, but they had power. The guitars were shredding, cutting, taking you to pieces. This is barely slapping you on the wrist and saying, we're gonna sound badass. So there's so many ways to do lo-fi production, and unfortunately this is not really nailing it. unless you really want your atmospheric black metal sound that, yeah, we didn't really have that much electricity. We had to save the money, save the electricity, and so as such, this is like half the voltage. I'm sorry to say this out loud, but this could have been so much better if only the focus was with the best riffs and a little bit better production. This would really rip your skin. But now it's just slapping you on the wrists. So very, very much like you have way too many black metal projects and you're just, pretty much going into different places without really focusing on one. So maybe sometimes it's better to cut those extra trim, that extra fat, trim it off, focus on the real meat, and don't spread all your ideas in various bands, which essentially will gonna sound like you have way too many similar bands sounding nothing like killer. Okay, don't wanna rant more about it. Something which is in common with these two bands is like it's their work in progress. So we go to Norway as best of this pile Hjemsøkt. And like I said, this sounds like Ghost or Spectre or something. This is a non-glossy digipack, kind of a simplistic release. And I don't know why the other ones are not like this, because the booklet doesn't really do anything. And in my opinion, this already looks better because all the information, much like those, are here. Since none of these have booklets, it's really hard to say if there are some cool lyrics or common statements, whatever. This is just as simple it is. What this Norwegian band has in common with those Swedes, there are a couple of things, along with them being all black metal, is that these guys too, apart from the vocalist, have a lot of other bands, and most of them are black metal. So since I don't know what kind of black metal it is, I cannot really compare if there are similarities or differences, but sounds like still too much, too many bands and spread too thinly. Hjemsøkt's thing, the main problems are pretty much the same as with the previous albums. There are lots of ideas which really would need stronger punch. Now, once again, I want to emphasize, I do like raw black metal when it's executed properly. But being raw and grim is less, forgiving than, with stronger production. With your strong production, even the weaker mid riffs can sound okay because you have the strong production to kind of back you up. You could do a basic palm muted riffing and say, yeah, it sounds bad, it's coming from Sunlight or Morris sound or, I don't know, Grieghallen sound. But when you have those mid riffs which are then backed up by, kind of a weak rehearsal room sounding, they will really show that, okay, these are not that good riffs. And unfortunately, some parts with Hjemsøkt are exactly like that. So there are better parts where you're like, okay, this is gonna rip, and then they're like, okay, now it gets to this filler point, and I'm kind of gonna suffer through that in order to get those sweet parts, the ones that actually rip. So it's a little bit bumpy road here. Some good ideas, some very mediocre ideas, and somewhere in the middle, a lot of those parts as well. So nothing really too grim, nothing raw here, but more like a little bit weaker demo-ish production. I get it, with a lot of these guys might be some kind of a let's go back to old ways, let's do low budget thing, and like those good bands did back in the days. We're talking about the Enslaved and Immortals and Burzums and what have you. But the difference is those guys made really, really killer albums one after another, and it's not like all of them really had that bad of a production. So it's only when you have those super killer riffs you get a little bit like, okay, it's fine if you don't have the good production. I mean, we're talking about the Mayhems and stuff like that. But when you don't have that killer material, you're gonna be blamed for doing a sloppy job. That's not exactly true with Hjemsøkt, because I'm not gonna call them sloppy, but I would say just have more metal to the pedal instead of sounding just weak. So a lot of promise here, but no cigar this time. So if I sound like I'm a little bit ranting, maybe it's because I've gone literally thousands of black metal albums throughout the decades, and mediocre job is not gonna cut it. These are for the minds who haven't yet been experiencing so many basic stuff. These days the competition is fierce, and either you really do some killer songs, or you at least have the kind of a production that kind of will turn the blind eye to what's coming. So these are for the underground maniacs who just want to have it all. But yeah, there are so many better albums, so many better bands coming out there. More like collector's items in a way, or those who want to make sure that their record collection looks very, very credible underground one. So promising, but not there yet. Now links are provided in the description box. Off you go to check them out. See ya.